When I was a young tween, I first came across Skyrim. At first, I wasn't also interested in the game. I was a very picky and annoying sort of person back then, and I just wasn't really interested in anything that was unfamiliar to me, even though really it wasn't unfamiliar at all because I had played plenty of RPGs before, and plenty of open world games before. This was on the 360 era of consoles, and one day I just decided that I liked Skyrim. I saw some videos on it and I wanted to try it out because it looked fascinating to me. And I have this distinct memory of making my little Bosmer and getting out of Helgen. And my first thought was not to go to Bleak Falls Barrow or some other dungeon. It was not to go out and exploring that beautiful new land that was now open to me. It was not to go and do the main quest or any quest for that matter. It was simply to pick up my bow and see if I could shoot a deer and make a living out of simply being a hunter, by selling skins and meats to local merchants. And around Riverwood, there's plenty of animals. There's rabbits, there's wolves, there's deer, and the same is true for the plains directly outside of Whiterun. So that was my first instinct, and I was very easily able to fulfill it. I was very easily able to go and confirm that yes, I can simply hunt animals and make a living out of it, even if it is a very meager sort of living that will probably take forever for me to be able to uh, make any sort of decent money at all. But the fact that it was still possible anyway to exist as a subsistence hunter, and then later I discovered a subsistence farmer, was fascinating to me because the developers had spent all of this time developing such a beautiful world filled with all sorts of things for you to do and complete, uh various sorts of factions that you could join with their own quest lines and stories. And yet you could ignore all of that. You could ignore being a dragon eater demigod, a spawn of Akatosh, and just be a somebody doing something for a living. And to me, that was something that was quite revolutionary because I had never seen any RPG do that before. I was very used to the notion that RPGs are there, uh, and what they have to do is provide you with character building options in the sense of class and stats and abilities. And they have to give you a story premise. And that premise is something that is essentially a storybook, right? It's a choose your own adventure type book where you make choices through dialogue, you make choices through killing this guy but not that guy, or killing both of them, and just generally deciding which ending you want to get and how you want that character to be remembered. But truly, that character is not your character. It's a variation of that game's protagonist, right? This is true for games like uh, Baldur's Gate 3, which I have played relatively recently. This is true for oh my, oh my, oh my. Let me heal here. Give him a chance to attack me again. It's been dropping thing. And that's the case for games like Mass Effect and all BioWare games, basically, where you have a protagonist and you choose what version of that person you want to be, and you get to pick what version of the story you want to see, but fundamentally it's still the same story, right? Cyberpunk does it too, so does The Witcher, though those games you can't really make your character. You can make some choices on how Geralt acts, and you can choose how V acts, you can choose how V looks and how V fights, but ultimately it's still a version of the same person, right? And then we have dungeon crawlers, with which I have always enjoyed immensely, and they're still RPGs. I love Barony, I love Adam, and those are the only two I'm gonna cite because they are what I play nowadays that count as dungeon crawlers, and I guess roguelikes too. But neither of those games really give you the opportunity to be someone, because you are already a uh, sort of not necessarily no, completely nameless character. You just give them a name and it doesn't really matter. You're just a character defined entirely by their class. And again, your choices, they go so far as to only be in relation to your class and how you want your build to be, plus whatever choose your own adventure storybook ending you want to achieve for that playthrough. Right? That's true of dungeon crawlers, just generally speaking. But when I played Skyrim, what I was given was an entirely different situation. Sure, there were all the factions with their linear stories over which I have very little impact of, and yeah, that's true. In that sense, Skyrim does not provide you with much choice. And neither does Morrowind, by the way, which I played a few years ago, and I'm still playing. It's become my favorite game alongside Skyrim, for mostly the same reasons. Skyrim, just despite of its writing limitations in its quests, and it does have a main quest, right? You're supposed to be the Dragonborn, the one who defeats Alduin and saves the day. But truly, you don't have to be. That is not the case until you defeat your first dragon in that particular quest that you get after Bleak Falls Barrow. You know, assuming you're playing vanilla, which, you know, if that's the case, I assume you're playing on a console. Because what are you doing playing a Bethesda game vanilla? Anyway. And as much as people like to say that's a point against Skyrim, only to turn around and glorify um, Morrowind for being the greatest RPG of all time, which is something that I agree with. It is, but you know, Morrowind sort of does the exact same thing with its quest structure. The difference being that Morrowind actually allows you to choose which quests you want to do and what quests you don't want to do. And its quest log is incredibly unobtrusive, right? It's a journal, and the quest tab of it is... you have to make an effort to actually see it, right? You have to go open your journal. You have to go to options, which opens this other little piece of paper here, and then you have to click on quests and look for the quest that you want and click on it. Contrary to Skyrim journal, which is just a nagging eternal list of quests that you have yet to complete. Uh, and still, despite sharing more or less the same way that quests are written, Morrowind gets a lot more praise than Skyrim does. While Skyrim gets called repetitive and shallow and dumb, Morrowind gets called the greatest experience of all time, even though many of its faction quests just amount to go here and kill this guy, or go here and get me some flowers and some mushrooms so I can continue my research, you little shit, right? And sure, the main quest of Morrowind is undeniably infinitely better than Skyrim's in how it's written and everything. But it's still linear. It still forever ends with you destroying the heart. Whether or not you are the Nerevarine is an entirely different can of worms, because it kind of depends on whether or not you follow the prophecies and decide to mantle Nerevar and therefore become Nerevar. There's plenty of videos out there on YouTube where a complete rando just spits in the face of Azura and just completes, you know, like the destruction of Big Ur without ever touching the ring of Moon and Star. Which honestly I find to be quite funny. Damn, this guy's strong. I'm not going to the right direction at all. But that's okay. I'm just here to adventure a little bit and reflect both in character and out of character, I suppose. But ultimately, the structure of these games, majority content is the same in a way. It's a bunch of fetch quests in essence, but it's how they're flavored that is different, right? You would say. But at the same time, the Fighters Guild has you going after some criminals and bullying people and all that sort of stuff, while the Companions has you going after some criminals and bullying people. So, you know, I understand that the radiant nature of Skyrim's quests makes it hard to have some written flavor into these things because they have to be applicable to a wide range of situations, and I think that actually plays in favor of the game. If I'm being honest, just as it is just as valid and good as pre-written flavor, and in a minute I will explain why. But what I'm getting at here is that the Elder Scrolls games, and whenever I say that, I'm primarily referring to Morrowind and Skyrim, because these are the ones that I have played to death, and are basically the only games that I play nowadays. I think that the nature of these games, of how they're built, allows you to not really be following a specific narrative. You can if you want, of course. The main quest is present in both of these games, in all Elder Scrolls games, in fact. But you are not really forced to do them. In Morrowind, in fact, you have several chances to jump out of the ship before you are named Nerevarine, and and just move on with your life as a random commoner, just doing a thing. Skyrim's Radiant quests, people usually consider them to be lazy content and everything, but and I'm not here to excuse Bethesda or anything. It could definitely have been implemented in a different and better way, but the way I feel like these games are meant to be played, and it's how I play them, it's how I derive the most enjoyment out of them, is to not really treat them as role-playing games and more as just role-playing spaces, if that makes any sense, right? After I played Skyrim for the first time, I did not really know what a tabletop RPG was, and yet I still attempted to make something very, very similar to that, to play vampires, to play with my friends. Oh, this guy's scary. Was that how I should reroll my friend? That's spooky. Oh, this is not what I want to use. I don't really understand. Perhaps I should use epic ring just in case I actually get hit. Awesome. Burning ancient. Oh, really? Vampire ancient shield. Very armor. Very longsword. That's very cool. It's somehow better than my mithril longsword in every way, which is crazy, I say. Go check it out. Oops. I don't want this boots, not this sword. Did I pick up already? Yes, I did. This looks really, really cool. And it's just better than my mithril sword by every single metric. Actually insane. Somehow it's worth less though. I'm not using it though because I don't think my character would be caught dead using one of these things, but I'll definitely pick it up for sale, or at least as a trophy of this battle. Radiant quests, due to their lack of specificity and everything, actually call you to use your own imagination, right? Which was originally kind of the point of these games when they were made. You get a quest, say from the companions, and there's a guy who wants you to go teach a lesson to somebody who works in the same place as them. Why is that? Why would they want you to do that? Those are very valid questions, but they're not really answered within the game. But that does not necessarily make these quests bad in any way, because what the game is doing essentially is calling for you to answer that yourself. You know, try to piece things together in your head. They work at the same place, and it is calling for the beating of a colleague. So, you know, maybe they screwed them over at work. Maybe they stole something from them. Maybe it's just some kind of petty rivalry that is going on there. Those are all valid answers that you can have as the truth for your play session, and you can do you can do that for literally everything that happens within the game. It doesn't just limit itself to Radiant quests. This character that I'm playing right now, Evelyn, she came to Morrowind in order to look for the man who killed her father. She did not know who it was, except that it is a Dunmer man, a local. And I had no idea where that was going. So I just started investigating. I joined the Fighters Guild because I imagined that was my best shot at finding a murderer. And indeed, eventually I ended up getting a contract for a man named Tells Renim, wanted for murder and for stealing stuff from farmers. I presume also for countless other crimes, right? And yeah, I find him, I kill him, and on his body there were pieces of equipment that ordinarily don't really mean anything because it's leveled random loot, right? But in the context of my character, finding an assassin, a known assassin, wearing boots of assassin enchanted with assassin appropriate spells, and carrying a long blade, like a one-handed long blade with enchantments suited for a fencer, was kind of a dead giveaway that I got the right guy, right? The sword clearly was taken as a trophy from the cold dead hands of my father, who was a fencer and taught me everything I know. And the boots clearly meant to facilitate the job of murder for money, right? And so my adventure, the primary purpose of my adventure was concluded. I found the man who killed my father, and I avenged him, and I recovered his blade, which is now for display not really display, but like it's safely kept in a shelf in a house that I bought in Caldera, so I can honor his memory. Since there's really no corpse to bury, that's the best I can do. And that's all part of role playing, right? That's my personal journey that I am cooking up from this character. I had established uh, Eveline's, my Breton duelist. I had established her past, her motivations, her emotions, her personality, and what her goal was in all of this. But once that goal was achieved, then so what, right? Life doesn't just end once you successfully achieve a particular goal. So, the continuation of her story was not to simply retire the character, but which would be not really a continuation, but an ending. It was to it was to figure out what to do with life after this. At which point I spent over 20 days trying to conquer uh, this Daedric shrine near Novalis, because I actually got shocked into unconsciousness in the place that I was due to a trap in a chest, and got brought back to Novalis because I have this mod, timely escape, which if you set to natural intervention, it's basically like somebody brought you to the nearest shrine, so you will not die. Someone found you. Again, you can roleplay how exactly that's happening, right? And that's the magic of these games to me. I have played Daggerfall a little, and it is more reliant on random shit happening to you, which leads to emergent narrative, which I find valuable and have taken steps to include that in Morrowind as well through mods, but it's really not necessary because, like I was saying, there is value in being able to imagine, right? What's written in the game is not all there is to the game. There's theoretically an infinite amount of quests that you can do in Morrowind or Skyrim that you can just come up with yourself. And if you're really immersed in your character, treating the game less like a game and more like a little simulator of a world, treating it more like a simulation of fantasy life, you can get a lot more stories than just what the game provides you. And that's not something that I have found to be possible in the traditional RPG structure that is popular nowadays, right? That gets praised for being well written and with super compelling characters and everything. And again, I think there's value and a place for that kind of stuff, but I personally much more value a world in which I am allowed to decide which characters are deep and important in everything through extrapolating what the game gives me into a coherent narrative. And I realize that not everyone has the capacity to do this because you know, people are creative in different ways, and some people are more creative than others. And that's just a fact of life. There's not much that can be done about it. And if you cannot engage with the game beyond what it is presenting you with, that's completely fine. But perhaps this is just not the game for you, in a way. I think I already have this volume. I collect the books here with this character and most of my characters, really. Because very high because I have so many news and finish that. Summer. I'm very sure I think some scrolls are the first of my inventory that I frankly don't know I have anymore. Don't really see some more things. I'm very simple look. Very damage jungle. There's intelligence that goes with mage there. And I think that's it. Only some scrolls of fire. Fire starting to fire. Oh, I'm in body here. I'm just very confused. I think I angered too many vampires at once. I think it's short, but I get them. Here's right. I'm looking right here. Oh my. Oh my. I get really these potions here because my mind isn't aligned on them. I should probably realize there's vision range, so I don't take so much. This is over? No. I apologize for the silence. This was quite intense. Very, very intense, I would say. But I did it. And quite honestly, I don't really have anything against people who just enjoy, you know, the game at face value. You know, that's, like I said, perfectly valid as a way to enjoy these games. But I must reinforce that this is not how I think they were intended to be enjoyed. I mean, Morrowind's game manual, yes, I read that, uh, contains an entire section on the quests part that reiterates the importance of, you know, making up your own stories and going along your own way. And I understand the desire to just engage with these games. Oh, what corporate sweepings. And I understand the desire to just engage with these games as games and nothing else. You know, I think the commitment to that is necessary to engage with the Elder Scrolls as a full world in and of itself might be a little bit too much for some people, especially considering how, quite frankly, primitive some aspects of it can be. Like, a lot of the NPC stuff in Morrowind, and after a while, you know, you hear the same lines of dialogue in Skyrim for the billionth time. And I understand how how that can be a little bit grueling, after a while, and sort of take away of the liveliness of this world. But in all honesty, I don't think that it really is as shallow of a world as people like to say that it is. I don't think Skyrim is as shallow as people is, and I legitimately do not think that Morrowind is as dated as people say it is. And I know these are strange, controversial, perhaps, takes to have, but these are games that I love from the bottom of my heart because, number one, the world building, the lore is just so incredibly imaginative. It's so beautiful in a way. And as a world builder myself, I take great inspiration from the things that can't open this door. The things that we see here, and I understand that the lore in this game is a little bit esoteric and kind of deep, and you have to really, really go out of your way to get, into the sauce of things. But once you do, it is quite the worthwhile experience, in my opinion, and it really helps you get deep into what these games have to offer once you know the context of everything and how the world operates. The cultures are so well developed and everything is so alive here. And usually there's some level of like ludonarrative dissonance. I don't know if I'm using this term correctly. Forgive me if I am not, but usually games they have this deep lore and everything, but then you're just a part of a troop of guys that is just trying to save said world, and you don't really truly engage with the world very much outside of a few instances of doing so. Uh, and by engaging with the world, I really mean being part of it and not necessarily the Jesus of it, Because it is very common as a trope in RPGs, that you are some kind of hero, you are doing hero stuff, you are here to save the land from some great danger. Uh, and that's all well and good. But after a while, I'm just kind of tired of seeing that, and I just want to be some little fella. I just want to be some girl out there doing her own thing for her own reasons, and leave all of that chosen one prophecy, saving the world stuff to somebody else. Somebody else who's probably more capable than me to do that stuff. Even though mechanically speaking, I know there is nobody more capable than me to do that, at least after a certain point. But that does not deter me from feeling like there could be, because of how well crafted Tamriel is in all of its incarnations. And that's something that, first of all, I just love. I just love about these games. And second of all, is what I already said. They are not built like the common RPG of way back then and now. I might be wrong on this, but I believe the the slogan for Morrowind, like in marketing and stuff, actually used to be something along the lines of, write your own story. And I think that to varying degrees, that has remained true throughout the franchise ever since. I can't speak for Oblivion because I have not played it. I have not played Oblivion, so I don't really know how that goes, but this is how these games end up feeling for me. And it genuinely gives me a little bit of whiplash, a little bit of dissonance whenever someone is treating these games as though all there is to them is just whatever content is already present in them, because very clearly they have mechanics and features that encourage you to go beyond just whatever. Oh, oh, I'm screwed. I'm so screwed now. Oh, I'm so screwed now. I'm so screwed right now. Well, I could try just getting super drunk and hoping that fortifies my fatigue enough to get up, but I'm not sure that will actually turn out to be the case, but it's worth a shot. Um, no, I'm gonna get beaten up by these vampires. That's how it goes. Ah, oh well. An instance of failure here for me. It's fine, it's fine. It's part of the game. It's part of the story, you know? Luckily I did not lose any super important skills here. I probably need some very, very good rest and a little bit of re-preparating myself here. Which is good, actually. I think that is what's going on with my inventory. I think that is good because that means I get to talk. I'm not even sure where I was, to be honest. I'm not sure exactly where I was. Oh, I guess I lost that bedroll. I have to get another one. Oops. I'm extremely dehydrated. Let me hydrate. I'm already hydrated. I need to waste more water. Good thing I cooked all of these meats here. Fine. They give me a little fatigue regeneration. I'm in Pelagia. Why am I in Pelagia? Was I that close to Pelagia? I don't remember. I genuinely do not remember. I think I was around here actually. I think I can go back there, but I need to restock on potions first. I'll see if I can talk to a priest. Um, the alcohol is still happening. I'll go to the water, see if I can take a bath, because I'm currently super vile here. And to me, stories are very important. I feel it's, it's one thing to have a narrative that you already know where it's like it is going somewhere, and every time you reread that narrative, it's gonna go to the same place, like reading a book. It's another thing to have an interactive narrative that you know it has a couple of ways that you can go, and you can see them all, but once you've done it, it becomes like the book in a certain way. And then I think there is immense value in having a place where you can just craft your own tales, your own narratives, and have stories to share. You know, I could just sit here and talk about all of the countless stories I've had playing Skyrim and playing Morrowind, and uh, in all of these cases, you're gonna find out that it's really me, just like playing the game, uh, with like interpreting a character that I have in mind, and taking that to an extreme, right? Like straight up interpreting events that really have no more meaning than was ascribed by the developers when they were making the game, and other such similar things. But that's part of the fun of role playing for me, you know? You. I was going to Vivek, right? Part of the joy of role playing is you going out of your way to tell yourself a story just for you, just for yourself, that would not happen to anybody else. This is mechanically enforced in games like Daggerfall, where there's, the random events and everything, and the emergent gameplay that can happen as a result of your of your gameplay choices and things that just happen to you. But it can also happen in games like Morrowind, where there's also, all of the stuff that can happen to you, especially if you're using mods like I am to enhance the game into a more of a vanilla plus experience that is tailored towards, uh, you know, enhancing the life simulator aspects of the game. Glamour Homunculi. Where did I get this? Where did I get this? No, get out of here. I don't know where I got that. Leave. I don't know how to conjure stuff. And you can have all sorts of stories just happen from random things being interpreted in the context of your character. Where's Vivek? Here. Here. You can have all sorts of things just be justified by the context of your character, such as the example with the sword earlier, which I actually forgot to demonstrate, but it was in that house that I slept in. And to me, that is incredibly rewarding, Uh, the choices not being in a dialogue box or in what path I take in the predetermined uh, branching tree of fate, but to be my own completely and wholly, as per the character that I have created. To be something that I know that was in part aided and made possible by the fact that the game has its own little things going on. It has its own quests that interact with my character, rather than my character interacting with the quests, and ultimately having a journey that is entirely unique to that character, even if later on I come up with another character that does the exact same quests, because I know that character that is new and not the old character will engage with the same quest in a different way and will have a different outlook on things. And it will ultimately just be, I have no idea what's going on here. This bug appeared today and it's just here. I don't mind it, but like it's definitely quite funky. Um and ultimately it's just a stepping stone to a totally and completely different journey. And that's a beautiful thing for creative people of my stripe. And these, uh, and this is a type of game that I have never really found anywhere else. There have been imitators and games that have tried to achieve a similar glory, I feel, as Elder Scrolls, but I feel like they fundamentally sort of miss what makes Elder Scrolls games so great to begin with, which is this freedom to be whoever you want to be, completely unbeholden to the expectations of the main quest or of any quest line in particular, except for the quest line that you invent for yourself. And I think that's a beautiful thing because it speaks to the capacity of human beings to uh, make stories and tell themselves stories. And like I said earlier in the video, stories are immensely important because that's how we have understood the world since the beginning of time until today. You could argue, oh no, we understand the world through science today. But, whatever science determines to be true still needs to be told as a story for people to understand. That's the job of science communicators, after all. It's to communicate these incredibly wrinkle brain concepts in a way that is digestible to the common people. And what's the best way to do that? It's through storytelling. It's through turning all of that data and knowledge into a story. And that is true of so many things. Because, like, most of what we consume nowadays, whether we consciously know of it or not, is being told in the format of a story. Video essays are stories, like those spooky crime and paranormal stuff channels. They are stories being told to you. Whenever a teacher is explaining how gravity works and how objects want to be close to each other to the gravity, to the force of gravity, that's a story, right? The objects don't truly want anything, at least not from a purely materialistic point of view. If you are an animist, perhaps, the story changes, but we're not talking about spirituality and faith here. Um, Here, deep breaths. Where's the ring? Here's the ring. She said it was on the mainland, directly north of the Vivek city place. So I assume it's somewhere around here. Maybe I misinterpreted what she meant by mainland. I think I severely misinterpreted what she meant by mainland. Is this the guy? Gorak Grove Bagrat. Just north of the bridge from Foreign Quarter to the mainland. Wait, so that's on Vardenfell. Oh, I'm so confused by how that was phrased. I am so confused by how that was phrased. Oh. You dropped your fishing pole. Can't see anything underwater. And I wish people were more willing to tell themselves stories again in a more free-form format without having a guiding hand telling them what that story is, right? I very rarely see proper role-playing happening on Elder Scrolls videos, even though these games are made for what I at least consider to be the ultimate kind of role-playing. Which is quite sad. And hopefully I can be the change that I want to see in the world. Perhaps by starting a little series here. Maybe. Who knows? Let's clear this tomb of any evil that's in it. It's pretty well lit. Oh, what is this? It... Oh. Oh. Oh my god. What an abomination. A bone golem. Nether salt. Worth some coin. I hate bone walkers. Locked. Back. X. Oh, that's no problem. Oh, my X is here. Huh. Triolith. It's like a monolith, but 3. The key is required to open the triolith. Oh, that's very interesting. Is there no key around? Suppose not. Well, there's more places to see here. And I think in this time of... And I think in this time of people having ever shortening lifespans, not lifespans, gods, that's terrible. Ever shortening attention spans. I think it is a good exercise, you know, to just uh stop a little bit and try to come up with your own little stories. Exercise your creativity. Oh, who is this guy? He's the caretaker of this tomb. Oh, those spirits. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought they were evil. I kind of killed all of them. I'll remove myself from this place immediately. I mean, there was a vampire in there, so you know, you can't blame me. But I believe people need to sort of uh kind of ground themselves in meaningful things again. And if they do that by playing linear story-based RPG games, I think that's perfectly fine. But there's something special about just being let free in a world full of possibilities, where you can do, in essence, whatever your heart desires, right? To just have this sense of immense freedom. And I think I'm gonna end it here. I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself. I'm rather tired today. It's been hot here, and that messes up a little bit my ability to think and be a cognitive being in general. So I'll stop here. I hope what I said made any sense and wasn't too much of a pain to hear. My name's been Agnes, and see you at a later date, maybe.